Fyodor Mikhailovich Dostoevsky remains one of the towering figures of world literature, a writer who plunged fearlessly into the darkest recesses of the human condition. Born on November 11, 1821, OS, in Moscow, his life and work were marked by tribulations, epilepsy, poverty, imprisonment, the loss of his beloved wife, political exile, all of which forged the raw material for his unparalleled novels. His writing confronts the most urgent ethical, spiritual, and social questions: free will, suffering, redemption, the meaning of faith, the nature of good and evil, and the struggle to remain humane in a hostile world. Let us begin by exploring Dostoevsky's biographical background and formative experiences. He was the second of 7 children in a middle-class Russian family. His father, a doctor, was reportedly harsh and authoritarian. His mother died when he was young, an early trauma that informed his sensitivity to loss. Dostoevsky's youthful ambition, to write and study, led to his graduation from the Engineering Academy in Saint Petersburg, but his true calling emerged during the 1840s when he published his first novel, Poor Folk, 1846, which earned him early acclaim. However, this success was soon overshadowed by political troubles. In 1849, Dostoevsky was arrested for involvement in a progressive intellectual circle and sentenced to death, only to face a mock execution before his sentence was commuted to 4 years of hard labor in a Siberian prison camp, followed by compulsory military service. This traumatic experience changed him forever. While imprisoned, he underwent a spiritual transformation, converting to a Christian worldview that emphasized humility, compassion, and the possibility of redemption through suffering. These ideas became cornerstones of his major works. After release, Dostoevsky returned to Saint Petersburg and began publishing again. He married twice, first to Maria Dmitrievna Isaeva, whose eventual death deeply affected him, and later to Anna Grigorievna Snikina, his devoted stenographer and second wife, with whom he had 4 children. Financial difficulties plagued his life, gambling debts and pressure to complete novel after novel, but he persevered and produced some of his greatest writings in the 1860s and 1870s. Major novels, themes and significance: 1. Crime and Punishment, 1866, one of Dostoevsky's most famous works. Crime and Punishment centers on Rodion Raskolnikov, a destitute student in Saint Petersburg who murders an old pawnbroker to test a theory that extraordinary individuals can transcend moral law. The novel explores guilt, psychological torment, moral awakening, and the possibility of redemption. Raskolnikov's descent into paranoia and his ultimate confession shows the inescapable burden of conscience. Dostoevsky's use of interior monologue, psychological realism, and moral analysis was groundbreaking and influenced modern literature deeply. The Idiot, 1869. In The Idiot, Prince Myshkin returns to Russia after treatment for epilepsy and spends time among aristocracy in Saint Petersburg. Myshkin embodies innocence, honesty, and compassion, qualities that society considers foolish or naive. Yet his kindness and spiritual purity reveal the corruption and cruelty of those around him. Dostoevsky uses Myshkin to pose philosophical questions about goodness itself. Can true virtue survive in a world structured by calculation, selfishness, manipulation? Demons, also known as the Possessed or Devils, 1872, a chilling satire on radicalism and political nihilism in Russia. Demons draws from real events, conspiracies, espionage, ideological fanaticism, and violence. The novel paints a terrifying vision of ideological possession, characters who become ideological zombies, willing to commit atrocities for abstract principles. Thousands of young Russians faced disillusionment in the wake of utopian schemes. Dostoevsky presents the terrifying consequences of unchecked revolutionary fervor and the moral vacuum behind it. The brothers Karamazov, 1880, widely regarded as Dostoevsky's magnum opus, the brothers Karamazov weaves together family drama, philosophical debate, spiritual quest, and a murder mystery. The elder Karamazov's son, Dmitri, is accused of patricide. His brothers Ivan, the intellectual skeptic, and Alyosha, the compassionate novice monk, offer contrasting worldviews, and the revenant and terrifying figure of the devil appears in Ivan's fevered deliriums. Themes of faith and doubt, justice and mercy, free will and divine love come to a head. Sections like The Grand Inquisitor provide some of the most powerful theological and philosophical discourse in fiction. Dostoevsky leaves us with the idea that suffering, love, responsibility, and even doubt are necessary to forge moral beings. Philosophical and theological themes, free will and responsibility. Dostoevsky emphasizes that human beings are free to choose, even when circumstances are dire. Freedom entails responsibility, and suffering is inseparable from truest freedom. His characters often confront moral crises not because they are coerced, but because they act freely, even violently or immorally, and must face the consequences. Suffering as path to redemption. Far from advocating martyrdom, Dostoevsky dramatizes characters whose suffering leads them to insight, compassion, or spiritual awakening. Sonia, the prostitute in Crime and Punishment, accepts her lot with humility and kindness, becoming Raskolnikov's moral anchor. In The Brothers Karamazov, the aged monk Zosima teaches that suffering united with love redeems both self and others. Faith and doubt. Dostoevsky was no simple religious apologist. He confronted doubt head-on. Ivan Karamazov's rebellion against a god, who allows innocent children to suffer, and the conversation with the devil in his fevered sleep, confront religious belief with logical and emotional realism. Yet the novel also shows Alyosha's steadfast faith, embodying compassion turned outward in community and service. Through dialogue and inner monologue, Dostoevsky stages a battle for the soul of modern man. The duality of the human soul. Dostoevsky portrays humans as complex beings with conflicting and often violent impulses, reason versus emotion, cruelty versus compassion, pride versus humility. He dramatizes this inner struggle often in religious and moral terms, but also psychologically. Raskolnikov rationalizes murder through cold logic, until his guilt overwhelms him. Ivan intellectualizes evil, until hallucinations and terror consume him. Characters in The Idiot betray their own kindest impulses through jealousy, greed, or cruelty. Literary style and techniques. Deep psychological realism. Dostoevsky's narrative immerses the reader in the minds of characters as they wrestle with fear, guilt, desire, pride. He pioneered interior monologue long before James Joyce or Virginia Woolf, but always tied these reflections to moral urgency. Polyphony and dialogue. In The Brothers Karamazov, Mikhail Bakhtin famously described Dostoevsky's style as polyphonic, multiple independent voices, each with integrity and weight, conflict and converse without being subsumed by a single authorial viewpoint. Dostoevsky values dialogue over exposition. He makes ideas come alive through characters' intense, charged confrontation, realist detail and social commentary. Saint Petersburg is nearly a character in Dostoevsky's novels. Foul streets, crowded apartments, gambling dens, brothels, police stations, all rendered with vivid observation. He critiques the social order, poverty, bureaucracy, criminal injustice, the complacent aristocracy, revolutionary ideologies. His novels depict people crushed by social forces, but also capable of surprising resilience, moral and philosophical interludes. Long passages like The Grand Inquisitor from The Brothers Karamazov function as philosophical sermons in the guise of fiction. They dramatize theological argument, wrestling with questions of authority, freedom, and love. The novel's structure allows Dostoevsky to intersperse narrative drama with deep moral reflection. Historical and cultural legacy. Dostoevsky's influence extends far beyond Russia. His psychological insights shaped modern fiction in Europe and America. Existentialist thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre, Albert Camus, and Simone de Beauvoir acknowledged his dramatic vision of the crisis of meaning. Friedrich Nietzsche critiqued him, but Nietzsche's own exploration of the abyss owes something to Dostoevsky's uncompromising dive into suffering. Psychoanalysts like Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung were influenced by Dostoevsky's exploration of guilt, compulsion, and the unconscious mind. Philosophers, theologians, literary critics, political thinkers, all continually draw on his work to discuss morality, revolt, human dignity, and spiritual transformation. In Russia itself, Dostoevsky was, and remains, a cultural figure of immense weight. From the time of Tolstoy to the Soviet period and beyond, readers have debated and revered his representation of the Russian soul. His novels continue to be taught, adapted, translated, discussed in journals and book clubs in every corner of the globe. Themes and insights. Why read Dostoevsky today? 1. Confronts moral complexity. Dostoevsky does not offer easy answers. He plunges into moral ambiguity and invites the reader to wrestle with it as he did. His characters commit crimes, harbor doubts, seek redemption, underscoring that modern life is full of moral disorientation. 2. Technology, alienation, and modernity. Though Dostoevsky wrote before modern technology, his depiction of alienated individuals, uprooted by rapid social change and urban chaos, resonates powerfully today. His inner psychological realism anticipates modern experiences of anxiety, disconnection, moral disintegration. 3. Spiritual and existential urgency. At the heart of his novels lies a spiritual hunger. Whether you read him as a believer, agnostic, or atheist, the questions he raises, about suffering, purpose, love, responsibility, remain urgent. He insists that without love, without humility, human freedom becomes monstrous. 4. Literary innovation. His use of multiple voices, in-depth interiority, moral drama fused with realism, remains thrilling. Writers from James Joyce to Franz Kafka to Jorge Luis Borges have acknowledged his impact. Reading Dostoevsky is entering a text that refuses to remain predictable, preaching, or pandering. It engages. Suggested reading journey. If you're new to Dostoevsky, start with Crime and Punishment for its psychological and moral intensity. Then read The Idiot to explore innocence in confrontation with society. Move to Demons to understand Dostoevsky's political vision and critique of nihilism. Finally, The Brothers Karamazov, his most ambitious synthesis of family drama, philosophy, theology, and poetry. Alternate approach. Read Notes from Underground, 1864, for a shorter but brutally honest exploration of self-destruction, pride, and despair. Although a novella, it foreshadows themes that blossom in his later works. Final reflections. Fyodor Dostoevsky invites us to examine what happens when ideas become ideologies, when pride replaces humility, when the intellect tries to outrun the conscience. His novels showcase how love, compassion, and responsibility, not just rational argument, must ground human existence. He reminds us that suffering can be a crucible, if met with solidarity, kindness, and moral courage. His work is not reassuring. It is often painful, yet in pain there is potential for empathy, for transformation, for grace. Dostoevsky does not offer easy solutions, but he affirms that genuine human life requires struggle. So engage with him. Let his characters challenge you. Let Raskolnikov's guilt trouble you. Let Alyosha's kindness inspire you. Let Ivan's rebellion provoke you. Let Zosima's peace humble you. If you found this overview meaningful, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into great writers and big ideas. Let's continue exploring the voices that shaped human thought and creativity.